a rural area in North County Dublin, Ireland, is characterized by its tranquil atmosphere, low crime rate, and tight-knit community of approximately 400 residents. The area boasts breathtaking views and a strong sense of camaraderie. On Monday, October 4th, 2004, at approximately 5:30 a.m., Joe O'Reilly departed the family residence in Lambay View to commute to his workplace at Viacom Outdoor Advertising, located on the Bluebell Industrial Estate, where he held the position of account manager. He left behind his wife, Rachel, whom he had been married to for 13 years, and their 2 young sons, aged 2 and 4. Later that morning, Joe sent a text message to Rachel inquiring about the family's sleep and requesting that she extend birthday greetings to Jackie on his behalf, signing off with affectionate kisses. However, he received no response. Joe proceeded to leave voicemails for Rachel between 11:52 a.m. and 1:45 p.m. At 1:15 p.m., Joe received a call from the daycare center attended by their son, informing him that Rachel had failed to arrive for the scheduled pickup at 12:30 p.m. Joe attempted to contact Rachel via phone, leaving a message asking if alternative arrangements had been made for their son's pickup. He called again at 1:24 p.m., expressing concern for Rachel's well-being and urging her to return his call, but his efforts remained unsuccessful. Joe set off to collect their sons and contacted his mother-in-law, Rose Callaley, informing her that he had been unable to establish contact with Rachel throughout the morning, despite attempting to reach her via both the home phone and her mobile. He requested that Rose visit the family home to ensure Rachel's safety, while he attended to collecting the children. Joe made another attempt to contact Rachel, stating that he was en route via the motorway and had spoken with Rose, who also had not heard from her, and implored Rachel to respond. Additionally, Joe contacted Rachel's younger brother, Anthony, to inform him of the situation and the fact that Rachel had not arrived at the creche to collect their sons. Family members attempted to contact Rachel via both the home phone and her mobile, but all calls went unanswered. Rose's intuition suggested that something was gravely amiss, as this behavior was uncharacteristic of Rachel, prompting her to visit the family home to check on her daughter. As Rose pulled up to the bungalow, a sense of relief washed over her upon seeing Rachel's car in the driveway. However, the open patio door and unsettling silence inside the house quickly gave way to concern. The kitchen was in disarray, with drawers ajar and items scattered across the floor, while the living room appeared to have been ransacked, with videos piled haphazardly. Rose's worst fears were confirmed when she entered Rachel and Joe's bedroom, where she found her daughter's lifeless body lying in a pool of blood, her upper body contorted at an unnatural angle. The sheer amount of congealed blood made it impossible for Rose to discern whether Rachel's face was turned to the side or pressed against the floor. Blood splatters adorned the walls, ceiling, and even the bathroom, a grim testament to the brutality of the scene. Rose's touch revealed Rachel's body to be as cold as marble. A neighbor would later recount hearing Rose's anguished screams. With trembling hands, Rose retrieved her phone from her bag and dialed the police, followed by a heart-wrenching call to her son, Declan. Declan vowed to rush to the house, as did Jim, Rose's husband. Joe arrived at 2:30 p.m., accompanied by the children, and was met with the devastating news. He sprinted into the house, calling out Rachel's name, only to be met with a sight that would haunt him forever. "Jesus, Rachel, what did you do?" he exclaimed. Rachel's closest friend, Jackie, a nurse, arrived soon after and confirmed the worst. No pulse, no breathing. Rachel's father, Jim, arrived, but a police officer barred him from entering, citing the extreme nature of the scene. Joe revealed to the first responding officer that he had entered the house, touched Rachel's body to check for a pulse, and moved a nearby box into the boys' room, hoping he hadn't compromised evidence. During questioning, Joe claimed to have been at a bus depot in Broadstone, a seemingly improbable alibi given the time constraints. The investigation into Rachel's tragic death began, raising questions about motive and perpetrator. Rachel Callaley, adopted as a baby along with her 4 siblings by Jim and Rose, had been a vibrant presence, leaving behind a grieving family and a multitude of unanswered questions. Rachel's family was exceptionally tight-knit, and she always prioritized spending quality time with her parents and siblings, Anthony, Declan, Paul, and Anne. Her remarkable athletic abilities shone through in her softball career, where she achieved a world record. Rachel's vibrant personality earned her descriptions as energetic, kind-hearted, and full of life. Rose fondly described her as a radiant presence, recalling her adventurous yet well-behaved nature as a child. Jim remembered Rachel as someone who fearlessly embraced new experiences and valued independence, showcasing her skills in DIY and decorating. At 17, Rachel met Joe O'Reilly, who was 2 years her senior while working at a department store. Joe was immediately drawn to her height, with Rachel standing at 5'11", while he towered at 6'5". He persistently asked her to go on a date, and eventually she agreed. Joe discovered her passion for softball and joined her team, leading to a romantic connection. They got married after a romantic proposal at the Eiffel Tower and had 2 sons. In 2003, they moved to a cozy bungalow in Knoll, perfect for raising their children. Rachel devoted herself to motherhood, while Joe, from a complicated family background, excelled in advertising through sheer confidence and determination. Despite concerns about Rachel's potential loneliness due to Joe's work absences, she quickly integrated into the community through her sales work and a welcoming barbecue for her new neighbors. Joe's family had also been close-knit, but his parents' marriage had fallen apart when he was young, leading to his father's departure to England. Joe's confidence and perseverance drove him to succeed in advertising, despite lacking qualifications. He worked tirelessly to achieve his goals, often arriving early and leaving late. Rose had initial concerns about Rachel's potential loneliness in their new home, given Joe's frequent work absences, but Rachel seemed delighted with the move, quickly becoming known in the area through her sales of Avon and Tupperware and a welcoming barbecue for her neighbors. Despite Joe's attempts to present himself as a devoted family man, some of Rachel's friends revealed that he was often absent, leaving Rachel to bear the bulk of parenting responsibilities alone. Joe's daily routine involved leaving the house early for the gym and returning late in the evening, leaving Rachel to manage the household and care for their children. Rachel, a private person, kept her marital issues to herself, but some friends sensed potential problems in their relationship. Detective Inspector Pat Mary, an experienced scene-of-crime examiner, was called to the scene and was struck by the brutality of the crime. Rachel's father, Jim, believed she would have fought fiercely for her life, suggesting the killer might have attacked her from behind. The presence of untouched money in the house, €800 in a kitchen box and €400 in Rachel's bag, hinted that the murder wasn't a robbery gone wrong. Pat Mary suspected a staged robbery. An incident room was set up, and over 40 officers conducted door-to-door inquiries and searched the area for clues. As news of the murder spread, the community was shocked. The police believed Rachel was caught off guard by the attack. Searches for the murder weapon proved unsuccessful, but a plastic bag containing jewelry and a camera, items Joe reported missing, was found half a mile away from the house, casting doubt on the burglary theory. The investigation continued, with detectives working to uncover the truth behind Rachel's brutal murder. As the investigation continued, it became increasingly clear that the murder didn't resemble a burglary. Joe was questioned that evening, and he claimed to have followed his usual routine, leaving for work and the gym, and meeting colleague Derek Querney at a bus depot in Broadstone. However, discrepancies emerged in Joe's alibi. Derek confirmed speaking with Joe on the phone when he arrived at the depot, But Joe's response to Pat's questioning raised suspicions. When asked if anyone had a grudge against Rachel or if she was seeing someone else, Joe volunteered that neither he nor Rachel was having an affair, despite Pat not asking about Joe's infidelity. Further questioning revealed Joe's extramarital affair with Nikki Pelly, which he downplayed as a brief fling. Joe admitted to denying the affair to Rachel 3 times and revealed that the couple had argued the day before her murder, leading him to sleep in the spare room. Pat's inquiry was uncovering a complex web of relationships and deceit, casting doubt on Joe's initial presentation as a devoted husband. The investigation continued to unfold, revealing more inconsistencies in Joe's story and raising questions about his potential involvement in Rachel's murder. The day following the discovery of Rachel's body, Nikki was interviewed by the authorities. She corroborated Joe's account, acknowledging a romantic involvement but downplaying its significance. On the same day, the police received the post-mortem report, which revealed that Rachel had suffered blunt force trauma from a heavy object, such as a dumbbell, previously reported missing by Joe. The examination showed 2 skull fractures and multiple lacerations on her face, shoulders, and neck. Defensive wounds on her arms indicated an attempt to fend off her attacker. The report estimated 6 to 9 blows had been struck. Additionally, blood in her airways would have severely impeded her breathing. A few days after the murder, investigators searched Joe's workplace and confiscated his laptop. Recovered, deleted emails revealed a conversation between Joe and his sister, Anne, in which he expressed intense disdain for Rachel, using derogatory language and profanities to describe her, even stating that she repulsed him. Upon discovering the emails containing vile remarks about Rachel, Rose expressed the family's devastation that anyone could be spoken about in such a reprehensible manner. The revelation of marital issues also left Rose reeling in shock. The house remained cordoned off for 9 days, allowing crime scene investigators to conduct a meticulous examination and documentation of the premises. As the investigation progressed, the family prepared for Rachel's burial, writing letters to be placed in her coffin. When left alone with the undertaker, Joe made a chilling comment, "You can put the lid on it now," which sounded eerily detached to Jim, likening it to speaking about a tin box rather than his wife's coffin. His behavior raised suspicions among Rachel's parents. Following the funeral, they received condolence cards, one of which stood out. Joe's card simply read, "See you later." Joe's increasingly bizarre behavior continued as he returned to the house, reiterating his claim of stolen items, including jewelry, a camera, towels, and a dumbbell. However, the jewelry and camera had now been located. Joe then extended an invitation to Rose and Jim to visit the house, despite its state of disarray and the presence of their daughter's blood throughout. He claimed that being in the house brought him a sense of peace and suggested it could have a similar effect on them. Rose was initially hesitant to re-enter the house, but Jim believed that if it had helped Joe come to terms with what had occurred, it might also be beneficial for them. Upon arrival, they were astonished when Joe began to reenact the events surrounding the murder, speculating about the manner in which she had been bludgeoned and pointing out the blood spatter on the ceiling. He proceeded to show them the bloodstains on the walls, hypothesizing that the perpetrator may have stepped over her body and then cleaned up in the bathroom while listening to Rachel's labored breathing as she struggled to survive. Joe further suggested that the killer had returned to the room to, in his words, finish her off. Later, when they descended to the lower level, Joe insisted that they listen to the voicemails he had left for Rachel on the day of her death. Rose intimated that she could still hear Rachel's voice in her mind, uttering the phrase, "He did it." Later that evening, Rose shared her thoughts and feelings with Jim. Jim was overcome with emotion and implored Rose not to engage in discussions with anyone else, positing that individuals respond to grief in diverse manners and that Joe's comportment was merely a manifestation of his shock, given his unusually calm and composed demeanor. Concurrently, Joe commenced interacting with the media, expressing concerns that the perpetrator might potentially strike again, and he appeared on television to issue a plea for information. Journalist Jenny Friel conducted an interview with Joe at the residence, during which he unexpectedly inquired whether she desired to view the bedroom where Rachel had met her demise. Jenny expressed surprise at this request and subsequently felt a sense of nausea when Joe indicated the locations of the bloodstains and Rachel's body. Another journalist, Kieran O'Brien, visited the residence 12 days after the murder and captured photographs, including one of Joe seated in his kitchen. Joe revealed that the authorities were treating him as a suspect, and when Kieran inquired whether he believed himself to be a suspect, Joe affirmed this notion. Kieran reflected that this encounter was unprecedented in his entire career. Meanwhile, individuals from the community and the couple's social circles contacted Joe to offer their condolences and solicit opportunities to provide assistance. Joe would offer guided tours of the crime scene, reenacting his hypothetical version of events, a phenomenon later dubbed the murder tours. On October 22nd, Joe appeared as a guest on The Late Late Show alongside Rose, a prominent Irish primetime talk show hosted by Pat Kenny. However, his behavior backstage raised concerns among the staff, who described him as not appearing to be a grieving individual. Instead, he helped himself to food and refreshments and spent most of his time engaged with his phone, in stark contrast to Jim and Rose, who were unable to even contemplate a cup of tea. Joe's appearance on the show did little to alleviate the growing suspicions surrounding him. He claimed to have a meeting with a client, but this was a fabrication. In reality, he visited his mistress, Nikki. Ironically, Joe had used his television appearance to appeal for information regarding his wife's murder, yet he spent the night with the woman with whom he had been conducting an extramarital affair. The news of the affair subsequently broke in the media, only serving to intensify public interest. Upon reviewing her notes from the interview, journalist Jenny Friel observed that Joe had conspicuously omitted any expressions of love or longing for his deceased wife, instead focusing on the emotional impact on their children while revealing nothing about his own sentiments. Meanwhile, despite Nikki's attempts to downplay their relationship, evidence suggested a prolonged and clandestine affair spanning several months. The pair had initially met while employed at the Viacom advertising agency, subsequently exchanging contact information after a social engagement at a pub. Joe would then deceive Rachel by claiming work-related absences, using this pretext to secretly visit Nikki. They maintained daily phone communication and bi-weekly meetings, all while Joe vehemently denied any infidelity to Rachel. 6 weeks following Rachel's murder, authorities made 2 arrests: Nikki Pelly, charged with withholding information, and Derek, Joe's colleague who had provided his alibi, was also taken into custody. During his interview, Derek expressed uncertainty regarding the timeline, suggesting a potential discrepancy of up to 40 minutes. Nikki subsequently recanted her initial account, acknowledging a more profound and enduring relationship than previously admitted, while also revealing that Joe had explicitly requested she downplay their involvement to the authorities. Following their release without charges, Joe O'Reilly was taken into custody the next day, opting to remain silent and declining to respond to inquiries throughout the interrogation. Despite lacking a murder weapon and forensic evidence, investigators possessed CCTV footage depicting a vehicle resembling Joe's in the vicinity around the time of the incident, although the license plate remained indistinguishable. Consequently, Joe was also released without charge 2 days later. The family then petitioned the police to examine the letter Joe had placed in Rachel's coffin, suspecting he may have written something incriminating. An exhumation order was granted, and on March 8, 2005, Rachel's body was exhumed, allowing for the removal and chemical treatment of Joe's letter. Utilizing infrared technology, the previously illegible contents of the letter were finally decipherable. The 5-page letter, upon chemical treatment and infrared examination, revealed a poignant yet enigmatic passage. Rachel, my love for you is boundless. Your absence is unbearable, and I am reluctant to contemplate a future without you. You were the most transformative experience of my life, and your irreplaceability is absolute. This letter is the most challenging I have ever written, for reasons known only to us. Rachel, I implore your forgiveness. 2 words, a single sentence, yet an eternal plea. Although the note's ambiguity precluded Joe's rearrest, it served to fortify the suspicions of Rachel's family. In December 2005, 14 months post-mortem, investigators continued to bolster their case. The CCTV footage, showcasing a vehicle resembling Joe's blue Fiat Marea, remained inconclusive due to the indistinct license plate. Undeterred, officers devised a strategy to establish the car's ownership. They queried the database for all Fiat Marea drivers nationwide, yielding 2,500 matches. While it was impossible to eliminate every potential driver, the investigators successfully ruled out a sufficient number to significantly increase the likelihood that the captured vehicle belonged to Joe. In addition to their existing leads, the police contacted O2 to inquire about potential call recordings from Joe's phone on the day of his wife's murder. Although the provider couldn't furnish the desired records, they did offer alternative evidence. A French engineer was consulted, and through his expertise, the police were able to pinpoint the cellular masts nearest to Joe's phone throughout the day, effectively mapping his entire route. As investigators scrutinized the phone's activity, the findings became increasingly incriminating. At 5:45 a.m., Joe departed for the gym on the outskirts of the city, where he was scheduled to meet Derek. En route, he stopped at a petrol station to refuel his Fiat Marea and received a call from Nikki, initiating a 28-minute conversation, a detail he had previously omitted. Following his gym visit, where he showered before heading to work, Joe sent an email to a colleague stating that his phone would be out of service for most of the morning and arranged a 2 p.m. meeting. Contrary to Joe's assertion that he was located in a different part of the depot, a thorough examination of his phone activity revealed that he was, in fact, heading towards his family residence. During the period when his phone was in the vicinity of the house, Joe neither initiated nor received any calls or texts, although he did receive a call from Derek at 9:25 and a text from a colleague at 9:52. Notably, his phone had pinged off the Murphy's quarry tower, the closest mast to the house, with the quarry itself visible from the property. The same CCTV footage that captured a car believed to be Joe's passing. The quarry also showed the vehicle departing the area at 9:59, moving away from the home. It was only after this departure that Joe's phone was detected in Broadstone, a location he had claimed to have been at for the entire morning. This discrepancy, combined with Joe's habit of always carrying his phone, further solidified the case against him. At 9 a.m., Rachel departed with their 2 sons to transport them to school, and 3 minutes thereafter, CCTV footage captured her passing the quarry. The same camera recorded her return at 9:41 a.m., shortly before her suspected murder. Investigators analyzed the texts sent to Rachel, inquiring about her sleep, cross-referencing the timestamps with CCTV footage, which revealed a blue Fiat Marea in the vicinity 10 minutes after the texts were sent. By retracing the route from the text's origin to the CCTV camera, they confirmed a 10-minute travel time. Joe returned to the office around 12 p.m., where a colleague observed his disheveled appearance, noting a flushed complexion and red eyes suggestive of crying. Upon inquiry, Joe claimed everything was fine, but when his colleague expressed concern, he became agitated and hastily retreated to his office. Joe remained in his office until he received the notification that Rachel had failed to collect their son from school, prompting his departure. Following Nikki's initial release, it came to light that she had confided in a friend about the difficulty of maintaining her false narrative to the police. Nikki revealed that Joe had made a disturbing statement, claiming he could commit the perfect crime and escape detection. Upon re-questioning, Nikki acknowledged Joe's remark but downplayed its significance, suggesting he was not serious. Further investigation uncovered a heated argument between Rachel and Joe, wherein Rachel had demanded he reform his behavior or leave the relationship. Moreover, it was discovered that an anonymous tip had been submitted to social services merely 4 months prior to Rachel's murder, falsely alleging her unfitness as a mother. Joe and his sister exchanged emails discussing this incident, employing derogatory language to refer to Rachel and marveling at her ability to evade consequences. Joe responded to his sister's email, revealing that the social services investigation had validated his concerns. In the event of a divorce, he likely wouldn't secure full custody, thereby preventing him from severing ties with Rachel. In March 2006, Derek Querney was re-questioned by police, during which he became so distressed that he vomited into a bin in the interview room. He subsequently recanted his previous statement, conceding that his initial timeline may have been inaccurate. Joe was arrested for a second time, prompting Pat Mary to express optimism that the cumulative evidence, including phone analysis and CCTV footage correlations, as well as the elimination of other Fiat Maria drivers, would suffice for charging Joe. However, the Director of Public Prosecutions deemed the evidence insufficient, and Joe was released without charge. Pat Mary recalled Joe's nonchalant demeanor upon leaving, specifically his thumbs-up gesture, which conveyed a disturbing lack of concern for the gravity of the situation and Rachel's tragic fate. On the second anniversary of Rachel's tragic demise, her family held a commemorative mass in her honor, convening outside Lambay View. Notably, the children and Joe were absent from the ceremony. Rose Callerly's poignant singing at the Mass served as a testament to her unwavering strength and resilience in the face of unimaginable grief. Further analysis of mobile phone data yielded incriminating evidence, revealing that Joe's phone had pinged off a mast in close proximity to the family residence at the time of Rachel's murder, directly contradicting his alibi of being at work miles away. As investigators continued to scrutinize the phone's activity, the evidence mounted against Joe. Ultimately, on October 2006, police apprehended Joe at his mother's residence. Pat Mary recounted the arrest, describing how he approached Joe in the kitchen, placed a hand on his shoulder, and declared him under arrest for Rachel's murder. Joe's countenance allegedly turned ashen, his face drained of blood, as he faced Pat Mary, clearly unprepared for the sudden turn of events. Detective Sergeant Pat Mary testified that he formally indicted Joe O'Reilly for the murder of his wife, Rachel O'Reilly, at 10:55 a.m., to which Joe entered a plea of not guilty. The highly publicized trial commenced on June 25, 2007, attracting unprecedented media attention and public interest, with queues forming daily outside the courtroom. Rachel's family, who had not seen Joe in 8 months, found the experience of confronting him in court to be particularly distressing. They described Joe's demeanor as radiating fierce arrogance and detachment. The defense posited that the prosecution's case relied on circumstantial evidence, innuendo, and unsubstantiated allegations. However, the evidence presented in court starkly contradicted Joe's carefully crafted image of a devoted family man, revealing a complex web of deceit. The cumulative evidence, including phone analysis, derogatory emails, false alibis, downplayed infidelity, and suspicious post-homicide behavior, collectively formed a compelling and damning narrative. The court was presented with incriminating email and text correspondence between Joe and Nikki, revealing their intentions to establish a life together. The exchanged messages exposed Joe's declarations of love for Nikki and his reference to Rachel's children as "our boys," implying a paternal bond. This evidence established a clear motive for Joe's desire to eliminate Rachel. Furthermore, Joe's attempts to besmirch Rachel's character, portraying her as a neglectful and abusive mother, were revealed. In a stunning turn of events, it was disclosed that Joe's mother had filed the anonymous, unfounded report with social services, alleging Rachel's unfitness as a parent. The court was shocked by these revelations. Rose Callaley testified that upon learning of Rachel's failure to collect her son on October 4, 2004, she drove to Rachel's Knoll residence, where she tragically discovered her 30-year-old daughter's lifeless body, barefoot and lying on the floor. Rose Callaley poignantly recounted her discovery of Rachel's lifeless body to the court, describing how she knelt beside her, spoke to her, and rubbed her arms before desperately attempting to contact emergency services. She recalled Joe O'Reilly's arrival, during which he callously inquired, "Jesus, Rachel, what did you do?" Throughout the trial, Joe displayed a stark contrast in demeanor, consistently avoiding eye contact and showing no emotion, except when engaging with his legal team, at which times he would laugh and joke. The prosecution presented a chilling narrative. At 9:45 a.m., Rachel returned home, unaware that Joe, her husband of 13 years and father of their children, lay in wait within the bedroom. Upon her entry, he unleashed a brutal attack, repeatedly bludgeoning her. Following the assault, it is believed that Joe showered to cleanse himself of blood, laundered his clothes and towels, and attempted to stage a burglary scene, all in a calculated effort to deceive investigators. The prosecution presented further damning evidence, revealing Joe's calculated actions following the murder. He allegedly staged a burglary by placing supposedly stolen items in a bag and discarding them near a stream. When notified by the child care center that Rachel had failed to collect their son, Joe intentionally delayed his response, ensuring that Rose would be the one to discover her daughter's lifeless body. The testimony of Professor Marie Cassidy, a renowned pathologist, corroborated Joe's reenactment of the crime, including the chilling detail that the killer had likely heard Rachel's agonizing sounds and returned to strike her again. Additionally, Fiona Slevin testified about a conversation with Joe on the day of Rachel's funeral, during which he made a cryptic and incriminating statement. "I don't know why they're looking in the fields. The murder weapon is in the water." Slevin described Joe's remark as a slip, implying that he had inadvertently revealed more than he intended. Fiona Slevin's testimony continued, revealing Joe's startling admission. "Well, if I did it, that's where it would be. There's water all around. That would get rid of all the DNA." This statement implied a calculated attempt to destroy evidence. On the 11th day of the trial, groundbreaking phone triangulation evidence was presented, demonstrating how Joe's phone had been tracked to the vicinity of his house, contradicting his alibi of being at the bus depot on the morning of Rachel's murder. This innovative use of mobile phone data marked a significant milestone in the trial. 2 days later, emails exchanged between Joe and his sister, Anne, on June 9, 2004, were revealed, containing disturbing content that left the courtroom in silence. The email's impact was evident on Rachel's family members, Rose Callaley and Anne Callaley, who were visibly distraught. On the final day of the trial, Nikki Pelly took the stand, testifying that she and Joe had discussed a future together, further solidifying the motive behind Rachel's tragic murder. Nikki Pelly's initial interview with Gardaí revealed Joe's manipulation, as he instructed her to downplay their relationship as merely an affair, fearing that acknowledging a deeper connection would provide a motive for Rachel's murder. Joe's calculated approach to the media portrayed him as a cold, controlling individual. He had convinced Rose to appear on The Late Late Show, falsely attributing the suggestion to the police, while in reality he had been advised to refrain from media engagement. Rachel's brother astutely observed that Joe reveled in the attention and reactions of others, exhibiting an unsettling and abnormal behavior. On July 21, 2007, the jury delivered a unanimous guilty verdict, sentencing Joe O'Reilly to life imprisonment for Rachel's murder. The courtroom erupted in cheers and applause, mirroring the intense emotions outside, marking a dramatic conclusion to the trial. The jury's 9.5-hour deliberation culminated in justice for Rachel and her family, bringing an end to Joe's carefully constructed facade. The Kalali family's emotional reaction to the guilty verdict was palpable as they jumped to their feet, punching the air in triumph before being overcome with tears. Supporters cheered as Joe O'Reilly was led away in a prison van, bound for Mount Joy Jail to begin his life sentence. Rachel's family witnessed their daughter's killer being taken into custody, marking a significant step towards justice. Joe O'Reilly's subsequent attempts to appeal his conviction were met with failure, including rejections from the Court of Appeal, Supreme Court, and European courts. In 2015, his appeal to declare his conviction a miscarriage of justice was also denied. Joe has been denied parole multiple times, with Rachel's family remaining vigilant in their efforts to ensure he remains incarcerated. Notably, Joe's brother and Nikki Pelly, his former mistress, continue to believe in his innocence, with Nikki visiting him weekly in prison, a testament to her unwavering support despite the overwhelming evidence of his guilt. In 2022, it was reported that Joe O'Reilly and Nikki Pelly had ended their relationship for a second time, having previously separated in 2017. Despite this, they remain close and describe themselves as best friends. The Callaley family faced further tragedy in 2010 with the passing of Anne, Rose, and Jim's other daughter at the age of 31, following a battle with cancer. The proximity of her passing to the anniversary of Rachel's death underscored the profound impact of Rachel's murder on her family. Rose Callaley has sought to preserve her daughter's memory through her book, Remembering Rachel, the story of Rachel O'Reilly's life and brutal death, ensuring that the tragedy of Rachel's fate is never forgotten. Rose's poignant words encapsulate the family's enduring pain. I'd love her to be remembered as this bubbly person that we had for such a short time that touched everybody's hearts. I wish I could go back. I'd give anything to be able to hold her even just for 1 minute.